Hey guys, it's Miss Fisk. I'm here to give you a lesson on text structures. I hope that you enjoyed your vocabulary video about text structures. If you haven't watched it yet, go ahead and do that. It's a wonderful way to see the difference between all the different text structures. And you might be asking yourself, well, what is a text structure and why is it important? Well, text structures are just different ways that authors choose to organize a text. And what it really does for us is it helps us as readers to understand more and be able to adapt to the type of reading that we're doing. For example, if we are reading an article about how two animals are alike and how they're different, we're going to see different clue words in there. And as we read, if we're thinking about that, oh yeah, look, it's telling me how they're alike, or oh yeah, it's telling me how they're different. It just helps us to read it in a different way so that our brain can process that information and understand it more. And so I love text structures. I know that sounds silly. I'm just a total ELA teacher, but there are some major things that we're going to talk about today, and I'm going to try to share my screen. This is the first time I've ever done this, so bear with me if there are some technical difficulties. So I'm going to go onto my desktop, and I'm going to show you some things that I have saved so that we could look at them. The first one is the informational text structures anchor chart, and you have a copy of this in your packet. This basically outlines the 5 different text structures, and what I really love about it is it gives an example. It gives you a visual, meaning how does it look so that your brain can understand that. It gives different clue words for you, like there are these signal words that you're going to want to look for, or different things that you want to pay attention to. And then it also just defines each structure so that you have a more clear understanding of that. So we'll start with description. Basically, description is just providing a lot of details or characteristics about something. A good example, as the chart indicates, would be ice cream is a frozen, sugary, sweet delicacy. The treat comes in flavors like vanilla. And so this is just telling you all about ice cream. It's telling you it's frozen. It's telling you it's sugary, that it's sweet, and it's giving you kind of like, just details about something. Comparing and contrasting, I feel like you really will understand this one with all of our projects that we've done in science, comparing life cycles and different things like that. We tend to focus on the Venn diagram, which is where we have the 2 circles, and in the middle we think about how they're the same, and then on the sides we think about how they're different. And so compare and contrast is nothing more than that. You're looking at 2 things and you're thinking about how they're alike and how they're different. And so an example of that would be, although both ice cream and veggies are food, ice cream is less healthy and eaten as a dessert. Veggies, however, are a side dish to a meal. So do you notice that word although? It kind of tells you that they're going to be talking about 2 different things, which are the ice cream and the veggies. And it tells you a little bit about the ice cream, and it tells you a little bit about the veggies, but it shows you how they're the same. It says that they're food, but it also shows you how they're different, saying that one is not healthy and it's a dessert, and one is something that is really good for you and it's a meal. Order and sequence. I feel like we should really understand this one as well. Due to our wax museum project, we did research about individuals, and when we read their biographies, we located all kinds of dates so that we were able to make our timeline. And to know that in Mrs. Granhold's class, I'm not sure if it's 3rd or 4th or both, y'all are making timelines. This is an example of putting things in order and sequencing them. And text can be organized like that, like I said, with a biography and autobiography, but they can also be like where you're just listing steps, like first you're going to do this, or second you're going to do this. Like if I was making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, I would say first gather all the materials: bread, jelly, jam, and a knife. And then second, I would go through all the steps of making that sandwich from start to finish. The other text structure that is next is problem and solution. Problem and solution are exactly like what we read in fiction. It's like there's a problem and we have to figure out a solution or a way to fix that problem. And the example that they give here says if your ice cream melts before you finish it, put it back in the freezer. So the problem is your ice cream melted. The way you fix it is you put it back in your freezer. The last one is cause and effect. And I feel like this one is going to be one that you're really going to have to spend a little bit more time on. We haven't talked too entirely much about this one, and I really don't have any great examples from class that I can offer. So this is something new. Basically, what cause is why something happens. So when we think of a cause, we're always thinking of that question, why did this happen? When we think of effect, we think of what happens. Like, for example, if Mrs. Fisk was riding her bike super, super fast, and then she hit a pothole and fell down and skinned her knee, you'd have to ask yourself, what is the cause? Why did Mrs. Fisk fall down? Well, I was going super fast and I hit a pothole. The effect, that would be what happened because Mrs. Fisk hit that bump in the road. Well, I fell off my bike. So cause and effect is one of those things that happens in our everyday life. It could be something like the bike example. It could be me choosing to not to study for a test. And then when I take the test, I don't pass it. Well, why didn't I pass it? What's the cause of that? Mrs. Fisk didn't study. What's the effect? Well, I didn't do so well on the test. So this is a little bit about text structures, but what I want to do now is move into our text structure practice. And we're going to simply read these together and try to figure out the different text structure. We're going to look for clue words, and some of these are listed on your anchor chart. And we'll see if we can try to figure it out. So it says, wild chimpanzees are rapidly disappearing. Some people are trying to solve this problem. Do you see that key word? Problem. Otherwise, chimpanzees may one day exist only in zoos. People are trying to save the rainforests and woodlands where the chimps live from being cut down. It will take many people working together to solve this problem. This is pretty straightforward. It says problem and solve. And so this is a hint to us that this is probably problem and solution. But I don't want to stop there. When I'm doing text structures, I want to think, are we comparing two things? Are we contrasting them? The answer is no. Is this an example of cause and effect? And then I go through this and I ask myself, no. Is this an example of putting things in order or sequencing? The answer is no. Is this describing something or giving me the characteristics or details about it? So no. So therefore, I know this one has to be problem and solution. The other one, number 2, let's try this one. Chimpanzees and humans are alike in many ways. Alike is one of our clue words. So if I'm seeing the word alike, I know that they're trying to tell me how something is the same. A baby chimp laughs when its mother tickles it. After chimpanzees fight, they kiss and they make up. When one chimpanzee comforts another, it gives a hug or a pat on the back. There are, of course, many ways that chimpanzees and humans are different. Different is one of those clue words here. So I'm seeing how something is the same and how is it different. I want you to stop and think for just a minute. Which type of text structure tells me how something is the same and different? But that doesn't mean I don't want to finish reading, so I'm going to do that. Just think about that as I read. Chimpanzees are smaller and stronger than humans. An adult male chimpanzee stands 3 or 4 feet tall and it weighs about 100 pounds. But a chimpanzee can lift more weight than a man who is 6 feet tall. So think about it. Is this a problem and a solution? Are they comparing and contrasting two things? Is this an example of cause and effect, where I have why something happens and what happens? Is this sequencing or putting things in order? Or is this description, giving me the characteristics or details about something? If you said compare and contrast, you're correct. Compare and contrast because we're looking at two specific things and we're seeing how they're alike and how they're different. Question 3 says, Chimps live in groups and they like each other a lot, but sometimes they fight because they don't want to stay angry at each other after a fight. They make up by holding out a hand to the other and kissing. They show that they are sorry with pats and hugs, and then the anger goes away. So here we notice that they're fighting, but they don't want to stay angry. So they hold out their hand and they kiss. They show that they're sorry with pats and hugs, and then they're not angry anymore. So ask yourself, is this something that is going in order? Like with dates or first, second, third? No. So we know that this cannot be sequence. Ask yourself, are they comparing two things? Are they giving me reasons that something is alike or how it's different? No. So it cannot be compare or contrast. Okay. I just lost my train of thought because my daughter was waving to you guys on the stairs. So I'm not really sure which ones Ms. Fisk has already asked you questions about. But basically, I'm just going to pause and I'm going to allow you to think about it for a moment, and then I will reveal the answer. If you said cause and effect, you are correct. Okay? They fight, but then they make up. So why do they have to make up? Because they're fighting. So that's the cause. They're fighting. What happens because they're fighting? That's the effect. Well, they have to make up, which is awesome. I'm glad that they do that. Number 4, a chimpanzee's body is made for climbing and swinging in the trees. First, it uses its long arms to reach a branch. Next, with its flexible hands and feet, it grabs and hooks onto the branch. Finally, it swings from that branch to another branch of tree. Notice those words first, next, and finally. What does that mean to you? They're telling me time, right? They're saying first you do this, next you do this, and finally you do this. Which text structure do you know that tells about something in order? If you guess sequence, you are correct. They're putting something in order. Like we talked about when we did our wax museum, right? We did all the dates in order. Well, even though these aren't dates, these are clue words. These are called transition words, and they're giving us sense of time and what you're doing first all the way to the end. The last question is, it is fun to read about chimpanzees. All wild chimpanzees live in Africa. They live mostly in rainforests and in woodlands. And there are 2 types or species of chimpanzees, the common chimpanzee and the bonobo, also known as the pygmy chimpanzee. So you might be tempted to think, because you see the word two, that this would be comparing and contrasting. But because they are not telling you how they're alike and how they're different, that cannot be this text structure. Let's think about what they did tell us. They said it's fun to read about them. They live in Africa. They live in rainforests. They live in woodlands. This sounds like a bunch of facts or characteristics or details about chimpanzees. Which type of text structure do you think would be the best choice for this question? If you guessed description, you are so right. Woo woo. I'm so proud, because this is simply giving you those details about chimpanzees. So as you go through your different task cards, I hope that you will find this lesson meaningful. Feel free to use the anchor chart as well as this video to help you. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and hopefully this works to where you guys can see me again. But if you have any questions or you need anything, please email me or be prepared to talk with me about it on our Zoom session. I'll be happy to answer any of those questions. But you have some task cards, you have some challenge activities that are optional that you do not have to do, but you can do if you want extra practice or you feel like you're really good at it and you just want to take that time and do that. So anyways, love you, love you, love you. And again, looking forward to seeing your face soon. Bye.